So you can see we get a little bit of out of band guys going here. The skip is really starting to roll in today. Actually, it looks like it's rolling out. So anyhow, what we have on the bench today, upside down, is a Stryker SR-655HP. Customer sent this in, actually a local customer. Long time ago, he had taken this to another local to work on, and unfortunately, that guy passed away. I've actually been starting to get some of his stuff. I guess the estate is releasing everything. I don't know. Family, I don't know how that works. Not getting involved in it, but yeah. So people were getting their stuff back, and I'm starting to see a few things that I guess he had, radios and stuff that he was working on. This one apparently was originally sent to him because it would not turn on. Customer finally got it back, and it turns on now. So he doesn't know what was done to it. I can't say I see anything that looks like anything had burned up in it, was not hooked up to the power backwards. I did see some signs of reflowing solder joints. I usually don't like to just reflow solder joints or just add fresh solder. I like to desolder components, especially on a modern radio like this, because remember, this is a surface mount radio. You're pretty much guaranteed that the solder used in this is lead-free. And most people, when they're hand soldering, like me, use leaded solder because it has a lower melting point. So yeah, I like to desolder components. Don't like mixing different solder compositions. And like the solder that I use is a silver solder. A lot of people think that's for it conducts better. That's kind of the same as the people that get, hate to break people's feelings, but what I call audio full solder. People that buy that, well, actually I can't say anything. I was getting ready to say people that buy this $100 a roll audiophile solder makes your radio better, sound better. I don't know. It's a bunch of, pardon my French, but horse shit. Bunch of marketing crap's all that is. If you want a good solder, just buy a good lead tin silver solder, something with 2% silver in it. It's not going to make your radio work better. I don't care how good the solder is. The whole idea behind, the reason that I use silver solder is it's stronger. The composition of solder that I use is the strongest, has the highest tensile strength of any lead composition solder. That's the entire reason I use it. Strength, not conductive. The conductivity of it. And people that tell you about this super sounding solder, yeah, it's a bunch of, like I said, horse shit. People, you're wasting your money. Now, don't get me wrong now. Buying a pound of good high-quality Urson multi-core silver solder ain't cheap either. But it's not falsely, it's not false advertising. And they don't claim any fantastic stuff like that. I use it just because it's a really good solder. The composition that I use, and it has really good flux in it. But yeah, so when you're doing stuff like this, desolder, through-hole components, the regulators down the side and whatnot, those were redone. The mic jack was also, looked like it had been resoldered, so I desoldered it and resoldered it with, like I say, with my solder. And it's just stronger. Like I said, that's the reason I use it. So, the radio, like I say, it never didn't work for me, so I've done a transceiver alignment to it. You can see it's receiving great. I honestly don't like, well, I do like and don't like. It's kind of a mixed feeling thing. I like the display meters they have on these, and multiple colors. Yeah, you can do all kinds of fancy stuff with these. They're computer programmable. And you have all kinds of features. What the hell did I do? Christ, I put it into some funky color loop. Stay. I don't know how the hell I did that. Anyhow, I like the display. Multiple things are displayed at the same time. Has other down here you can actually get in for programming and whatnot. The one thing I don't like is the S meter, its actual functionality. You can see that thing was pegged at 60 dB over S9. Now, this was calibrated precisely with 50 microvolts into 50 ohms, okay, for S9, or 100 microvolts EMF, and dead nuts right on 9. And if I applied greater signals, it's actually accurate, very accurate, for S9 plus 10 and S9 plus 20. But if you just add the tiniest bit more power to it, all of a sudden it shoots up to like 60. It's not linear, and you can see there's no don't get me wrong. There's a boatload of background. Like I say, the skip actually it's starting. Wait till this loudmouth goes off. Yeah, the signals coming in just aren't that strong. I mean, they're strong, don't get me wrong. They're probably S9, possibly plus 10, plus 20 dB, but they're not hitting 60 dB, guarantee. And I can turn on any other radio and it doesn't do that. It's almost like they have the timing sample rate for this meter not set. You have to realize this is a computer-controlled microprocessor-controlled radio. It's almost like they have the timing, how it's sampling, or I should say sampling rate. They don't have the sampling rate right on this. It's accurate, like I say, well, accurate to a point. It's not very accurate down at the bottom end. It's definitely not accurate at the top end. It's very accurate in the middle. So, if you properly calibrate it for an S9 signal, it's accurate up to, say, plus 20 dB and down to about S5, and the accuracy falls off below that and really falls off fast or up above that. But, yeah, and that's just going to be programming, their programming. I'm not talking about attach your interface cable to this and, the user options. I'm talking the actual factory program on this. But, yeah, so standard Stryker construction, not bad quality. If I had to, and I don't like export radios to start with, I think everybody's probably realized that by now. Usually don't have a lot of good things to say about export radios because they're usually junk. I would not put this one in, and actually pretty much anything Stryker. I even did a review on like that SR, wherever the hell that was, 94 HPC, that little AM/FM radio. Actually, this is AM/FM as well. See right there. This is not a sideband radio. That was really good build quality. This one's actually good build quality. And it's actually one reason. Now, I know a lot of techs don't like these radios. Let me go out of focus. Focus. Nope. Probably that gigantic reflection ball of light right there is killing it. A lot of techs don't like this because it's surface mount. Honestly, that's what makes this radio better than, say, anything with the RCI board in it. I don't know when one of these decades RCI is going to jump on the bandwagon along with every other electronics manufacturer on the planet that makes anything and start producing surface mount radios. It's more dependable. It's not that hard to service with some training and proper equipment. And honestly, if you don't like surface mount, because that's the way, as you can see, that's the way radios are going. And I often tell people, if you don't like surface mount, you're going to need to find a new career, because this is the future of electronics, and the parts just keep getting smaller. So, but the guy that had this before doesn't look like he'd done any modifications to it. The limiters, everything was still intact. There was a little bit of coil spreading going. Actually, there's still some coil spreading going on back here. And it's not, and I always tell people, don't spread the coils. You're doing alignment unless you have a spectrum analyzer. If you have no way of monitoring second harmonics, out of band emissions for the radio, don't go tinkering with them. People often say, yeah, just spread the coils for maximum power on your power meter. And I tell people again and again and again and again, when you go spreading, now not all of them, but the majority of these coils, that newfound power is not on the channel you're on. So whatever frequency you have your radio set to, when you go spreading coils for maximum power, it's all going usually into the second harmonic. This one was spread a little bit, and this one was spread more than it is now. I squeezed this one back together completely, and I squeezed this one completely back together, and then did a triple spread. So actually, there's there, and there, while monitoring the second harmonic and basically adjusting these for minimum output at 54 megahertz. So it has a nice clean output now. Of course, the modulation limiter on this, it's intact, but it was turned up way too high, so it was distorted, and that was causing some adjacent channel splatter. So that's been turned down for 100% modulation, so radio's doing what it's supposed to do. So just in case you've never seen a SR, whatever I said, 655, there it is. I don't think I've ever had one of these on camera. I know I've had the, actually turn it off here. I know I've had the 955s. I've done a video or two on those before. I don't think I've ever done one on one of these. But there it is. So, nice clean radio. Good design from the looks of it. Actually fairly clean on air. It still has a little bit of output on 54 megahertz, but it is way down and actually close to what most good CB radios would put out. It's a little bit higher, but really close. So yeah, the only thing I really resoldered on this, like I say, I desoldered and then resoldered the input power right here. So you have the little ferrite beads come off the power jack down to the board. So I desoldered and resoldered those, and the regulator, audio amp, and another voltage regulator here, desoldered and resoldered those. Other than that, yeah, I can't say I really saw anything wrong with it. So I'm assuming that was probably the problem. May have been the regulator here. If that had a bad solder joint, that would definitely kill the radio. So I'm assuming that's probably what the problem was. So there you go. There's just a quick peek inside of a Stryker SR-655HP.